Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Our countdown to the primary election continues with early voting set to kick off tomorrow. The polls will be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. You can find your early voting poll site on our website at ny1.com. Now, we have been following a number of contests on the ballot, including the Democratic primary race for Queens District Attorney. So far, we've brought you interviews with the incumbent, Melinda Katz, and one of her challengers, George Grasso. Tonight, you're going to hear from another challenger in that race. Devian Daniels is a public defender who has practiced law for more than 16 years. She previously ran for a Queens Civil Court judgeship last year. She joins us now to talk about this year's bid. Very nice to meet you. Welcome to the program. What made you, tell us a little about your background. What made you decide to run for this office?
Well, I've been a lawyer in Queens for almost 17 years, and I'm running, and I've been an 18B attorney, which means I represent people who can't afford an attorney in court. And, you know, from the time I was in law school at CUNY Law School, I've been to Queens Criminal Court as a student practice, under a student practice order, where I represented people who couldn't afford a lawyer there as well.
Mm-hmm. And so you've worked with indigent, I guess is the technical term, people who couldn't afford a lawyer. What's the jump from doing that to deciding to, you know, sort of run one of the biggest prosecutors' offices in America?
Well, you know, when I was in college back in 2001, I took an urban politics class, and I was really surprised when I read that there are 9 neighborhoods in New York City where 70% of the prisoners come from. And one of those neighborhoods was my old neighborhood in the South Bronx, and then my neighborhood in Jamaica, Queens was also on that list. Mm-hmm. And we fast forward 20-something years now, and those neighborhoods are still the epicenters of mass incarceration in New York State, mm-hmm. and that bothers me. And I think that, you know, it's really important that we reduce biases in the criminal court system so that we could end mass incarceration, and so that we have a criminal court system that could be fair to everyone that's there while keeping people in Queens safe.
So in Queens, like in other parts of the city, and frankly all around the country, there's been an emphasis toward maybe taking non-prosecutorial approaches to low-level offenses. I'm thinking about, you know, shoplifting, sex workers, fare evasion, and so forth. And a lot of that got aired in the last district attorney's race. And this district attorney said she was going to do something about maybe pushing the criminal justice system more toward fairness and not just toward punishment of those low-level offenses. What's your thinking about the state of that conversation, and what would you do if you became the prosecutor?
Well, in Queens right now, we don't have any diversion programs for low-level offenders or for nonviolent offenders. And I think that's a problem because right now in New York State, to keep someone in prison for 1 year, it costs taxpayers $115,000 a year. To keep somebody at Rikers Island for a year, it's $559,000. And those are large amounts of money. And I don't think that we can sustain that. And so I think programs like that are really important, but none exist in Queens right now.
Mm-hmm. And would you, as the prosecutor, you would create those programs or fund them, or what would you do?
Yeah, we should create them, fund them, and, you know, roll them out so that we can handle cases that way. Right now in Queens, about 49% of the cases are dismissed. And that means that half the people who come to court, you know, are there for, having a criminal case is very turbulent and troublesome for most people. It costs a lot of money, meaning that a lot of families have to pool money together to defend people. And if 49% of the cases are being dismissed, then it's really important that the DA's office investigate cases thoroughly and aggressively before bringing cases. Mm-hmm. There's no law firm in New York City that would, you know, where half of their cases would be dismissed and they would consider a good business model. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important in Queens.
Well, what is your assumption about why 49% of the cases are being dismissed? I'm taking your word on the number. I don't know that number to be accurate, but let's say that it is. What's the problem there?
I mean, there could be many different reasons, but the point is that you don't bring lots of charges and cases, mm-hmm. and then automatically assume that, you know, something will stick and that and somebody will take a plea deal or something like that. But whatever the reasons are for them being dismissed, It's a waste of resources. We have really serious crimes such as murders and people trafficking guns into Queens. And I think that those cases deserve a lot of attention and a lot of resources.
Right.
And if we're dismissing half of the cases, then we're wasting like half of our resources on cases that shouldn't have been brought to begin with.
So some percentage of those cases are due to what this prosecutor in Queens and others have complained about, which is discovery reform is the technical title. What it really means, I guess, in plain language for my viewers, is that you have to turn over a lot of information very quickly to the defense. I know you're very familiar with that, and if you fail to do so, one of the penalties is that the case gets dismissed. Is that some of what's going on here?
I don't know, but I believe that if the prosecutor's office should hand over all the evidence that there are in a case. That's really smart. Mm-hmm. That's really smart because it means that the defense attorney and the defendant can get a chance to review all the evidence. In Queens, Queens has a history where that hasn't always happened historically, and there are many people in prison who were wrongfully incarcerated, and that's something else I would do. I would fund the conviction review unit so that we can make sure that people who are wrongfully incarcerated, their cases are adjudicated in an expeditious manner.
Okay, so let's talk politics in our last minute. What's the path to victory? How are you going to pull this off? Queens is like the size of Philadelphia. Politically, it's a very big task.
It's a very big task, but I believe that voters care about fairness and justice. And there's one issue in Queens that hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but it's very grave and serious, which is that if you Google jury discrimination in Queens, the Queens DA's office will come up. And what you'll find is that there were lawyers in the DA's office who came up with a memo that said when certain people come to do jury duty, to kick them off the ballot. And that included blacks and included Italians. And when I read those articles, I thought we were talking about 1920 Alabama or Mississippi. But the current DA's office should address this issue by terminating the lawyers who did this and participated in this, and not just merely promoting them and giving them responsibility over other lawyers. I believe that, jurors are the most innocent people in the criminal justice system. They're just showing up to follow a citation that says, come to jury duty. And if the DA's office is strategically planning on booting people without seeing if they would be fair jurors, like that's the height of hypocrisy and discrimination.
I think we're going to follow up on that. I mean, I don't even understand the logic of like trying to keep Italians, out of a jury pool. But we'll certainly look into it. We'll see you out on the campaign trail. We'll wish you the best of luck. Primaries in just a couple of weeks. Thanks so much for coming by tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we head to a break, I want to remind you that New York One's debate series will continue next Tuesday when we'll host a debate in the Democratic primary for City Council District 26 in Queens. That includes all or part of Sunnyside, Long Island City, and Queensbridge. And be sure to check out the rest of our primary coverage, including the rest of our debates. It's all at ny1.com or the Spectrum News app. The paywall has been lifted for all of our debates, so we welcome you sharing them with your friends. And our voter guide is also live. You can use the QR code on your screen to take you there, and you'll find your voting site, a look at your ballot, and much more. We're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, I'll be joined by top journalists in our Reporters Roundtable to talk about the week's political headlines. Stay with us.